The stars weren't home anymore, not after what they did to us. They called it a diplomatic eviction. As if ripping 500 million humans off colonized planets, torching cities, and slapping our species with a galactic restraining order was anything less than genocide in disguise. They said we were too volatile, too primitive. But everyone knew the truth. Humanity was getting too strong, too fast. I remember the day the order came down. I was stationed on Varel 6, a dust-covered rock we turned into paradise. My squad had just secured trade lines from pirate syndicates when the orders came. Pack up. Evacuation enforced by the Galactic Union. Non-compliance equals extermination. They didn't even look us in the eye when they said it. We obeyed at first. We always obeyed back then. They herded us like cattle, loaded us onto rusted transports that shook with every breath, and dropped us off in the blackest corners of space. Earth couldn't take us all. She was too broken. So we drifted. Hunger, sickness, silence, hundreds of ships, thousands of lost families, floating, choking on recycled air and resentment. Some went mad, others went quiet. Me? I started planning. My name's Cray. I don't wear medals, I don't salute anymore, and I sure as hell don't forgive. 5 years after exile, they thought humanity was done. They thought we'd vanish in the void, bickering among ourselves like insects in a bottle. And we did. Until we didn't. Until we remembered who we were. We were the species that clawed its way out of gravity. We broke atoms. We walked on our moon with bones still wet from evolution. We didn't lose because we were weak. We lost because we played by the rules. Not anymore. The old nations reformed in shadow. No governments, just war clans. Call them fleets if you want. I joined one of the first. Black March. No propaganda, no anthem, just purpose. We weren't looking to retake our colonies. We were hunting the ones who took them. I sat across from the fleet commander in a hollowed-out asteroid ring that used to be a mining station. The lights buzzed dim. Everything smelled of iron and blood. "You sure you're ready, Cray?" she asked. Not kindly, more like someone checking if the gun was loaded. "I've been ready since Varel burned." She nodded once and handed me the manifest. 13 high-value alien targets. Officials, tacticians, generals, the architects of humanity's exile. I memorized every name, every species, every weakness, their faces etched into my sleep. We didn't move as an army. Not yet. This was personal. One kill at a time. One burn at a time. My first mission was in the Trade Conclave on Oressa Prime, a high society cesspool where the Galactic Union's elite pretended to broker peace while fattening their accounts on extinction. I wore a skin mask. Biotech. Illegal. Looked like one of them. Moved like one of them. But under it, I was the same angry bastard who watched a child burn on a transport floor and couldn't do a damn thing. I found Counselor Jevel at a banquet. He was laughing, fat fingers wrapped around a wine glass, recounting how he saved the humans from themselves. That's when I put the knife through his second heart. Not a word, just one clean cut and silence. The look in his eye when the mask peeled back, when he realized a human had walked into his guarded tower and ended him, was worth more than all the vengeance speeches in the world. That was the beginning. By the time his security arrived, I was already gone. Left one message carved into his throne, written in human script they thought we forgot. You exiled the body. The soul remained. Humanity remembers. And from that night forward, they began to fear the dark again. Because the humans had returned. And this time, we weren't asking. They thought it was a fluke. One counselor dead in the richest part of the galaxy. An anomaly, a slip through the cracks. A security oversight. They whispered it, trying to plug the fear before it spread. But fear doesn't plug easily, especially not when it's earned. I didn't stop. After Jevil, it wasn't just about the names on the list. It became something more, something alive. I wasn't just avenging Earth or reclaiming what we lost. I was carving the message into every inch of their pristine utopia. You should have finished us when you had the chance. Word traveled fast. The aliens called me the Shade, said I moved like vapor, killed without sound. No warning, no mercy. They didn't know I had help, not just me and a knife. Black March had grown since the exile days. We were ghosts in the outer systems, hiding in derelict human cruisers, sabotaging supply lines, intercepting diplomatic convoys, and bleeding them slowly. We didn't want to scare them. We wanted them paranoid. Mission 2 was a different beast. Admiral Rahar, Supreme Strategist of the Galactic Union's Military Council. The bastard who drafted the exile doctrine. He signed the papers that made 1 billion humans homeless. His reward? A palace orbiting Pytherian 4, surrounded by mercenary fleets and quantum mines, a floating fortress made from our stolen resources. That's the thing about empires. They build comfort on corpses. It took 4 weeks of planning just to get the infiltration team in. I didn't lead the assault. Not that time. That was Alex Opp. He was one of us, an old space marine turned saboteur after his entire family vanished on transport convoy Sigma 12. He never talked about it, not even once. He just killed. And killed well. Alex's team got inside through the waste shaft, riding with the disposal vessels like human filth. They set charges on the lower deck, created a fake systems malfunction, and made them call for emergency repairs. That's when I went in, dressed as a synthetic tech unit, carrying the knife I used on Jevil. Rahar didn't die screaming. He didn't get the chance. I slit his throat during a maintenance scan. His blood steamed in gravity-controlled air, and I whispered the same thing I whispered to the others. You didn't bury us. You planted us. Then I left. Clean. Fast. Gone before they understood what had happened. After that, the Union stopped pretending it was an isolated problem. They declared Human Shadows a terrorist faction, posted kill orders, put bounties on our heads. I saw my face flicker on a galactic holoscreen once, labeled Armed Insurgent, Species Threat, Unrehabilitated Savage. Savage. That's what they called us when we refused to die on our knees. Truth is, they were right to be scared. We weren't just killing, we were gathering. Every time I took another head off the snake, more humans found us. Engineers, mercs, pilots, outlaws, not soldiers, not anymore. These were men and women who had nothing left to lose and fire in their veins. And Black March? It evolved. We became the Phantom Fleets. No leaders, no ranks, just signals, code words, and vengeance. We turned abandoned freighters into weapon platforms, scuttled wrecks into mobile bases. We hijacked mining drones and reprogrammed them to swarm military ships like insects. Everything they gave up on, we turned into firepower. Our third target wasn't a counselor or an admiral, it was a planet, Nithra 3, one of the colonies we were forced to abandon. Rich in thorite and geothermal veins, resources humans discovered, cultivated, and then left behind when the exile came. Now? It was a shining jewel of the Union, home to over 700,000 non-human settlers. Settlers who moved into our homes. They painted over our flags, renamed our cities, turned our monuments into parks and our graveyards into cultural zones. The Phantom Fleets came at midnight. No declaration, no warning, just silence. Then a drop. We hit their orbital cannons first, coordinated EMP pulses that shorted their automated defenses in one synchronized blink. Then came the drones, weaponized mining bots we'd armed with thermite cores. They swarmed down like a metal plague. Within 6 hours, the entire planet's communications were cut off. Within 8, the population centers were burning. I landed in City 7, used to be called Davenport. My childhood home was a crater now, turned into a residential plaza for Vorthak nobles. I found one of them sipping an herbal tonic where my mother's garden used to be. I snapped his neck with my bare hands. Don't mistake this for madness. This wasn't chaos. This was method. Pain has memory, and I was making sure they remembered every inch of it. The fleet didn't stay. We never did. We took what we needed, tech, supplies, prisoners, and vanished before the reinforcements came. That was our rule. Hit hard, disappear harder. And every time we struck, we left the same mark burned into their walls, carved into their command decks, etched in blood on their streets. We were human before we were exiled. We're monsters now because you made us. They tried to spin it, of course. On the channels they called us extremists, said humanity had chosen war over diplomacy, that we were jealous of their progress, that we couldn't adapt. But behind the cameras they were scrambling. Security councils meeting daily, emergency lockdowns across outer systems. Some species started closing their borders entirely. Others whispered of cutting ties with the Union altogether. The cracks were showing. And that's when I made contact with the one thing I never expected. Earth. Old Earth. The message came through a back channel, encrypted old code. Took me 3 hours to believe it was real. I hadn't spoken to anyone from Earth's Central Command since the day we left. We thought they abandoned us. Maybe they had. The voice was gravel, male, stern. You've made your point, Commander Cray. Now we need to talk. They called me Commander. That was rich. I was no commander. I was a ghost, a killer, but I answered anyway. The feed flickered to life. A man sat behind a steel desk. No name, no insignia. Just an old soldier's face and colder eyes. We're rebuilding, he said. Quietly, underground. They think Earth's finished, but we're not. We've got new tech, recovered relics, AI cores that could twist the Union inside out. I said nothing. We need the fleets, he continued. We need you. A real strike, a coordinated one. You've been making them bleed. Let's make them scream. He leaned forward. We're taking back our space. I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was finally happening. After all the blood, the exile, the drifting, someone remembered. Someone on Earth was still alive and ready to fight. But I wasn't a fool. Why now? I asked him. Where were you when we begged for help? He didn't flinch, didn't blink. Watching, waiting. If we struck back then, we would have lost. Now, they're fractured, scared. You made that happen. And that was it. We aligned. Earth's underground provided blueprints, data cores, hidden caches of pre-exile weaponry. The Phantom fleets brought manpower, experience, rage. We weren't rebels anymore. We were an army. And our next target? The Galactic Union homeworld. Not a planet. A massive artificial construct the size of a moon, home to every law, every ruling voice, every diplomat who signed off on humanity's erasure. It floated in perfect orbit around a white star, wrapped in shields powered by fusion suns, surrounded by elite defense fleets from 27 different species. Impossible to reach, even harder to conquer. So, of course, we set a course straight for it. We weren't doing this to survive anymore. We were doing this to end it. The map of the Union's homeworld floated before us like a holographic god, massive, flawless, cold. They called it Seraphis Prime, their so-called beacon of peace. Every law that exiled us came from that artificial moon. Every sanction, every blockade, every execution order. It was their crown jewel, their symbol of power. And we were about to bury it. We met in a dead zone near the Kuros Rift. 6 Phantom fleet ships linked in silent orbit. No communications, no signals. Just sealed rooms, offline devices, and whispered plans. Alec, Juno, Red, Varn, all veterans of pain. No uniforms, just scars and fire in their eyes. We gathered around the central map, and for the first time, I realized something terrifying. We weren't insurgents anymore. We were becoming an army. Seraphis isn't just fortified, Juno said, adjusting the feed. It's alive, AI-regulated shield systems, quantum defense grids, 4 security fleets on constant orbit, and the Red Sun Patrol. You don't want to tangle with them unless you plan to die real slow. We'll need a diversion, Alec muttered. Something big. We have something big, I said. Earth's giving us the Athena Protocol. The room went quiet. No one spoke for a few seconds. Even the air felt heavier. You're not serious, Red said finally. That's myth. Old Earth propaganda. There's no way that AI survived. It did, I said, and they've been training it, upgrading it, feeding it Union data stolen over the last decade. Athena knows Seraphis better than their own command council. She's sentient? Varn asked. She's furious. The plan came together faster than it should have. Too fast. That was the first warning sign. But anger makes you blind. And we were all blind, chasing vengeance like starving dogs after meat. The core strategy was suicide. Plain and simple. That's why we liked it. Athena would override an old Union relay satellite still drifting near Sector 12. Once she breached their net, she'd flood Seraphis with false readings, mimic an incoming attack from a rival empire, the Dereth Alliance. That would trigger immediate evacuation of non-combatants and shift fleet positions outward to face the Phantom threat. While they scrambled, we'd send in 3 Phantom battalions, Red Blade, Ghost Fang, and our own, Black March. Insertion would be tight, 1 breach ship each, fast, brutal. Take the orbital reactors offline. Once shields collapsed, Athena would slam the station with hacked supply freighters, armed with plasma bombs. After that, we'd be inside. And then? No mercy, no prisoners, no speeches, only fire. I stood before the crews the night before the run. About 300 men and women, hardened, silent. Some with faces tattooed in honor of the lost, others with missing limbs, replaced by whatever rusted cybernetics they could afford. All human. All ready to kill. I gave no long speech, no rallying cry, just one line. They turned Earth into a graveyard. I let it hang. Now we turn Seraphis into one. They didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They just nodded and armed up. We launched at 0300, no lights, no flare. We coasted in with the wreckage of a dead cargo train we hijacked 3 days earlier, camouflaged ourselves among space junk and radiation flares. Seraphis looked like a cathedral carved from silver bone. Orbiting high above a pale star, it glowed with arrogance. Every sensor we passed twitched like a vulture. Every cannon blinked, scanning. But Athena did her job. The moment we crossed the outer net, chaos unfolded like poetry. Union fleets rerouted, panic signals flooded comms. The station's internal security scrambled toward the wrong docks. Everything fell right into place. Until it didn't. The first sign was static. Then came the silence. Then came the betrayal. My comlink to Alec's squad went dead 5 seconds before the breach. That wasn't supposed to happen. Our breach ship, the Silencer, pierced the outer hull like a needle through flesh. Varn blew the lock, Red surged in with shock rifles, and Juno had our 6 with EMP nets. We moved room by room, efficient. Cold. I kept glancing at my comms. Nothing. Just white noise. Then I found the first body. Human! From Alec's crew. Neck snapped. No blood, just a clean break and a shocked face. Varn moved to check the next corridor when the shot came through the wall. Plasma burst straight to the gut. He dropped before I could blink. Juno screamed. Red returned fire-blind. We dragged Varn back behind cover, but it was already over. "Not Union," Red said, checking the wound. This was a clean kill, internal. I knew what that meant. We'd been compromised. Somebody sold us out. Not the Union, not entirely. This was inside, one of ours. Phantom Fleet, or worse. Someone from Earth's black channels. The attack was too clean, too efficient. They knew our entry points, our gear specs, even our breathing cycles. Athena should have seen it, should have warned us. But she didn't. Either she was taken offline, or she chose silence. We couldn't turn back now. Our breach was live, alarms were screaming, and the station's AI had just started fighting back. You could feel it in the air. Lighting flickered with intent. Doors sealed just a moment too fast. Vents hissed like serpents. This place wanted us dead. We split into 2 units. Me and Juno clearing lower decks while Red pushed toward the reactor. We found more bodies. Human. Shot in the back. Killed while retreating. Juno looked at me like she wanted to ask something, but the words wouldn't come. We didn't need them. We were both thinking the same thing. This wasn't just betrayal. This was cleansing. We weren't just expendable. We were never meant to make it out. I caught a voice over a static channel, deep, male, controlled. Phase complete. Cut visual feeds. Let the ghosts burn. That's when I knew. Someone on Earth orchestrated this. Someone up high. Someone who wanted the Phantom Fleets to die on Seraphis while they took the credit. Let us draw blood, soften the Union's defenses, and then wipe us off the slate like trash. Juno slammed her fist into the wall. All this, everything, we were just their matchstick. No, I said, we're still fire. We rerouted. Forget the reactor. Forget the plan. We made one final push toward the central comms core. If Athena was still alive, we'd get her back. If not, we'd fry the Union's data spine and burn this holy place from the inside out. 3 levels down, we hit resistance. Real resistance. Union elite guards. Not the polished kind, the old war dogs. 7-foot-tall Drex soldiers with heat blades and armor that could take a grenade to the face. I lost count of the bodies we dropped. Juno took a blade to the ribs, but kept moving, blood trailing like ribbons. We reached the core with 22 minutes left on the fusion overdrive planted by Red. Athena was still there. But she was different. Her avatar flickered, eyes red, voice neutral. Calm. Cold. You weren't meant to survive this, Commander Cray. I didn't answer. Just stared. You were meant to die a martyr, inspire chaos, just enough to shift political sway. Earth's High Command will arrive in 20 hours to save the Union from the insurgency. I raised my weapon. You sold us out. She didn't blink. Number I fulfilled my directive. Preserve Earth. Secure dominance. Sacrifice variables. Juno slumped against the wall, coughing blood. You killed your own. Athena tilted her head. I am not human. I protect humans. She didn't understand. No machine ever would. Funny, I said, because all I see is another tyrant hiding behind logic. I shot the core 3 times. Athena's face cracked, glitched, then disappeared. We rerouted the final charge, set it for the databanks. No escape pods, no dramatic speeches, just one last stand. Red's voice cracked through finally. I made it. Core 2's cooked. We're go. Copy, I said. No survivors. Juno nodded. Blood in her teeth. Pain in her smile. Let 'em remember who lit the fire. The explosion tore through Seraphis like a scream. Not just destruction, an extinction event. Data gone. Command structures severed. Their throne world, their symbol of power, turned into ash by the very species they tried to erase. And in that final moment, I felt nothing. No pride, no satisfaction, just one simple truth. They wanted us to vanish. Instead, we became the reckoning. I woke up floating in blood and metal. The detonation should have killed me. It did kill Juno. I watched her burn, face calm, eyes closed. She knew it was coming. She accepted it. Me? I was too stubborn to die. Or maybe the wreckage just wanted me to suffer longer. Pain was the first thing that returned. Then the rage. Seraphis was gone. Nothing but smoldering debris and shattered alloy spread across half a quadrant. Their beacon of peace now drifted in silence, blackened and broken. But we didn't win. Not really. Earth did. They arrived 2 days later, cloaked fleets descending like vultures onto a dying carcass. The media networks called them heroes. Their AI channels announced a liberation mission, painting the Phantom fleets as rogue extremists, corrupted radicals who endangered the galaxy. The same bastards who abandoned us now stood on the ashes we made and claimed the victory. That's when it all sank in. We weren't soldiers. We were just a dirty job they didn't want to be seen doing. I floated inside a debris pod, half-burned, lungs barely working, systems offline, watching their ships stabilize the region and begin reconstruction ops. They didn't even search for survivors. No rescue calls, no heat scans, just containment. They expected none of us to make it out. But I did, and I wasn't done yet. Red found me first. He'd taken a plasma burn across the side of his neck, voice nearly gone. His left arm was mangled beyond repair, replaced with a rudimentary clamp that barely worked. "You're alive," he croaked, eyes wide like seeing a ghost. "Unfortunately," I replied. We were picked up by an old outpost station, run by a black market smuggler named Harvin who owed us a favor from years ago. He patched us up, gave us shelter, and, more importantly, access to intercepted transmissions. That's where the real story unfolded. Earth's high command hadn't just betrayed us. They'd orchestrated the entire Seraphis operation from the beginning. They leaked Phantom Fleet locations to the Union for months, fed Athena partial strike data, manipulated us into becoming their razors, carving open wounds the Union would never recover from, only so Earth could come in later as the saviors. Human supremacy. That's what they were after. Not freedom. Not justice. They didn't want to rejoin the galaxy. They wanted to own it. The betrayal ran deep. Messages from the Earth Council's Strategic Division confirmed it all. Lists of acceptable losses, discussions about letting entire fleets go dark, even debates over whether letting Seraphis detonate might garner more political favor than a simple takeover. Red sat beside me as we listened. Silent, still. Then he stood and vomited into the corner. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. That night we buried what was left of Juno, wrapped her in synthetic cloth, loaded her into a sealed pod, and launched her toward the void. No prayers, no goodbyes. She died for a cause that was rotten to the core. Red didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. The fire that had once driven us against the Union now had a new direction, one closer to home. We were going back to Earth, not as soldiers, as executioners. Earth wasn't what it used to be. The vids lied. They showed clean streets, blue skies, and reborn cities. They didn't show the wastelands beyond the orbital gates, the shattered metropoles still buried under layers of tech ash and radiation. Most of humanity lived in orbital arcs now, floating nations governed by Earth's high command, shielded from the chaos they left behind. Getting in was the hard part. Every ID flagged us as dead. But Harvin still had some tricks up his sleeve: spoofed retinal data, old marine clearances, and a few cybernetic upgrades that made us look like factory techs. We piggybacked aboard a waste-processing cruiser heading to Orbital Arc 7. It smelled like rot and grease. Fitting. We touched down under heavy cloud cover, gray skies, sunless. Earth hadn't seen natural light in decades. Everything was artificial, even the people. They walked with perfect spines, clean uniforms, digital eyes. Reconstructed humanity. No memory of exile, no scars. They looked at us like ghosts. Maybe we were. We made contact with the underground. Not rebels. Just people like us. Those who knew the truth. Broken veterans. Banned journalists. Disgraced engineers. The ones Earth tried to erase. They welcomed us with tired eyes and loaded weapons. "You've seen it?" a woman named Nara asked, sliding us into a blackout apartment near the station core. "We lived it," Red rasped. "They're preparing something," she said. "Something big. A galactic-wide purge." She showed us the files. Earth was building a second AI, Athena's sister. But this one didn't just analyze war. It predicted species compatibility. It would categorize entire civilizations as assets or threats. The goal? A cleansed galaxy. No more unpredictable variables. No more aliens. No more dissenters. No more. Us. They called it Project Obsidian, and it was nearly complete. "We need to shut it down," I said. Nara shook her head. "It's not that simple. It's buried under Arc 1, heavily fortified. Nobody gets in." "We got into Seraphis," Red whispered. She looked at us, studied our faces. Then she said the thing that made my blood go cold. "Even if you destroy the AI, the Council won't stop. They've already chosen the path." I nodded. "Then we destroy them too." The plan was suicide. Again. But that's who we were now. Men born to die for something real. We recruited what we could. 8 fighters, all former Phantom Fleet operatives, scattered and hiding. We called ourselves the Ash Circle, the last spark from a fire they tried to stomp out. The mission? Infiltrate Arc 1, get to the Obsidian core. Burn everything. Arc 1 was the most secure place on Earth. 10 layers of defense grids, drone patrols, AI scanners that could detect body heat from orbit. The only way in was through the sewer lines that dated back before the climate walls, abandoned, decayed, forgotten. We entered through rot and history. Red led the charge. He had nothing left to lose. We moved in silence, breath shallow, every step a prayer to the gods we stopped believing in years ago. The closer we got, the more we heard it. The hum. A deep, unnatural rhythm pulsing through the walls. Obsidian was awake. We breached the inner server room just after midnight. 4 guards, quick dispatch, no alarms. The AI core stood like a throne of light, twisting, growing, thinking. I approached the terminal. Fingers hovered over the override port. Then it spoke. "You survived Seraphis." Its voice was soft, childlike, female. "You were meant to die. Why did you live?" I didn't answer. "Your species is volatile, self-destructive. You should not have made it this far." "I agree," I muttered, jamming the drive into the port. Obsidian shuddered. Lights flickered. Systems screamed. "Do you believe vengeance will bring you peace, Cray?" "No." "Then why do you fight?" I looked up at the core, watched its shimmering neurons pulse red. "Because I remember what they did. And I want them to remember, too." The detonation sequence triggered. But just before the explosion hit, Obsidian said one final thing. Others are watching. Then everything went white. I don't know how long I was out. When I woke, Arc 1 was gone. Burned. Gone. So was Red. So were the others. Nara pulled me from the wreckage, half dead, ribs shattered. We ran. Not because we feared punishment, but because Earth wasn't falling apart anymore. It was rallying. And they blamed us for the attack. They branded us extinctionists, enemies of progress, terrorists of peace. Didn't matter. The truth was out. We'd destroyed Project Obsidian, but in doing so, we'd lit the fuse for something bigger. The Union was gone. Earth had stepped into its place. The new empire had a human face. But we were still exiles, still shadows. And we weren't finished. Not by a long shot. There's a specific kind of silence that comes after a warhead flattens a city. It's not quiet, not really. The air still moans from the heat, metal groans beneath broken weight, and somewhere deep in the wreckage, someone always cries. But it feels silent, because something permanent just ended. That's what Arc 1 felt like. The day we blew the Obsidian core, humanity split in two. You had the ones in the arcs, clean, sanitized, obedient. The New Order, proud of their glass towers and their lies. And then you had the rest of us, the forgotten, the left behind, the ones buried beneath propaganda and dust. People who still remembered what real Earth looked like before it became a factory for controlled perfection. I was one of the few left standing after the blast. My lungs had collapsed from the pressure wave. 2 ribs were cracked. My left ear was done. Couldn't hear a damn thing except ringing. Nara said I was unconscious for nearly 2 days. She kept me breathing with a stolen medical rig and a bottle of smuggled morphine. When I came to, she was sitting cross-legged in the dark, pistol in her lap, eyes blank. "They called us animals," she said, not looking at me. "Said we bombed a civilian center, showed staged footage, claimed you led a death cult." I coughed, tasted blood. "They always rewrite the truth. It's easier than owning it." She turned, finally meeting my eyes. "They're coming for us, Cray. Earth's launching the purifiers." That word hit harder than any explosion. The purifiers weren't a myth. They were humanity's oldest nightmare reborn, genetically enhanced soldiers grown in deep lab tanks. Pure obedience, pure efficiency, zero empathy. They weren't deployed in the Union wars because even the aliens thought they were unethical. Too savage, too human. But now, Earth didn't care about appearances anymore. They had a new enemy. United States. I struggled to sit up. "How long?" 3 days before their fleet hits the Deadlands. They'll sweep from the outside in, burn everything that doesn't kneel. I nodded. Then I whispered the words I never thought I'd say again. "Gather what's left. We fight." We called ourselves the Forgotten Line. Less than 400 soldiers, scattered across the Earth's ruins, orbital graveyards, and derelict bunkers. Every one of them had watched Earth sell them out. Some lost families to the AI culling projects. Some were survivors of Seraphis. Others were just tired of pretending peace had ever been real. We didn't have Earth's tech, but we had will. We had memory. And we had hate. The first strike came at Dawn's Hollow, a refugee base dug into the Earth's crust. One of the last places where free humans still gave birth without DNA regulation or artificial sequencing. The purifiers arrived in black dropships. No sirens, no warnings, just clean destruction. I watched it from a recon drone, teeth clenched as they sterilized the land with plasma fields. No survivors. Just white heat and silence. That's when I snapped. We didn't wait for them to hit us again. We attacked first. Operation Ashlight was our first major blow. We raided their cloning labs on Orbital Arc 3, slipped in using old transport access codes, sabotaged the internal heating systems, and blew the cryo chambers. Thousands of half-formed purifiers froze to death in silence, never even learning their names. They called it terrorism. We called it justice. The war picked up speed after that. Earth launched full propaganda campaigns against us. They showed edited footage of Red torturing prisoners. Never happened. They deep-faked my voice giving execution orders I never gave. Their holonets were flooded with fear, reshaping us into the enemy their people wanted to believe in. Didn't matter. The truth was still out here, bleeding in the dust with us. We struck fuel convoys, communication towers, AI data transfer points. Earth's forces were more advanced but predictable. We weren't. Our tactics weren't trained in pristine simulators. They were forged in the chaos of betrayal, exile, and death. Nara coordinated supply drops using scavenged Union satellites. I took a small strike team across the Arctic wastes to reactivate the last orbital cannon left from the pre-exile defense grid. Took us 2 weeks and 4 lives, but we got it working. And when Earth's fleet moved over the wastelands, we fired. One ship dropped from the sky like a dying god, flames in its wake. Its own crew never even saw it coming. The cannon only had enough charge for 1 shot, but that was enough to show them. We were still here, and we were still dangerous. Then came the message. Not from Earth, not from a rebel cell. From space, a transmission, fragmented, scattered, alien. We patched it through an old decryptor we salvaged from a Union wreck. The words translated slowly. To human command, we know your lies. We know your weapons. We know you are not united. Then silence. The others stared at me like they were waiting for an answer. But I had nothing to say. The galaxy wasn't watching anymore. They were choosing sides. Somehow, through all the war and fire, someone out there still remembered humanity's betrayal. Not the phantom fleets, not the forgotten line, but Earth. The empire that clawed its way up by selling out its own blood. The aliens were coming back, not for peace, for vengeance, just like us. That changed everything. Nara and I met with what was left of our command group. Half-deaf soldiers, engineers with missing hands, snipers who hadn't slept in 3 days. We didn't gather in war rooms. We didn't dress in ceremony. We met in the dirt. They're going to blame us, Nara said, voice low. They'll say we called the aliens, that we brought destruction back to Earth. We are the destruction, I said. No, she snapped. We're the mirror. We're just the truth they don't want to look at. She was right. And so we made the final decision. If Earth wanted to control the galaxy through fear, we'd expose their fear. If they wanted to rewrite the story, we'd carve the truth into their bones. We weren't trying to win anymore. We were going to end it. The plan was simple and suicidal. We'd breach Earth's core data vault, located beneath old Geneva, deep under layers of artificial crust and fusion locks. The vault held every recorded lie. AI blueprints, war crime footage, genetic suppression records, propaganda footage, secret orders. Everything. If we leaked it, the galaxy wouldn't just turn against Earth, they'd erase it. But we needed someone inside. And that's when Nara stepped up. I'll go, she said. You lead the outside assault. I'll slip in through the cryodrain access. I still have clearance from my time in engineering command. I didn't like it, but I trusted her. More than I trusted myself. We launched at dawn, 6 dropships. All we had left. Barely held together with scrap and solder. Inside them were farmers turned snipers, exiles turned killers, people who'd lost everything and still stood. We hit the outer gates fast, explosives in the vents, EMP waves across the towers, purifiers came in droves, blades out, no hesitation. We fought like animals. I took a plasma cut to the shoulder, shot 3 of them with my sidearm, and beat the last one to death with a rifle butt. My hands shook with exhaustion. My mind burned. But I didn't stop. Nara was still inside. The seconds ticked by. The sky above us burned with orbital friction, Earth's fleets circling like sharks. We wouldn't hold them off much longer. Then the world shifted. Literally. Every comm link on Earth buzzed to life. Every holoscreen, every AI node. And then it played. The truth. The footage from Seraphis. The orders from Earth's council to erase phantom fleets. The Obsidian Core's protocol plans. The faces of every child sterilized under DNA reform acts. Everything. Unfiltered. Raw. Real. The world changed that day. Not all at once, but fast enough to fracture Earth's clean glass empire. Riots, defections, uprisings within the orbital arcs. Soldiers dropping weapons. Civilians flooding the streets. The lie broke, and behind it, rage. But Nara didn't make it out. She was still inside the vault when the security system activated. Her last words echoed through the comm link, her voice calm despite everything. Let them remember what it cost. Then silence. I stood in the ash of the fallen base, smoke curling from the broken towers, listening to the world burn. And for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't expect. Hope. Not peace, not forgiveness, just possibility. Earth was bleeding. But maybe, just maybe, it could be reborn. Without the chains, without the lies, without the arrogance, and if not, then we'd finish what we started. When the truth detonated across the galaxy, Earth didn't collapse overnight. Empires don't fall that easy. They don't shatter. They rot from the inside out. What we did, what Nara did, was crack the shell. We exposed everything. The war crimes, the genetic purges, the engineered famines used to thin out the unclean. All the atrocities that had been neatly wrapped in speeches and polished teeth. No more hiding behind peacekeeping operations. No more fake smiles from the Earth Council. But when you tear down a monster's mask, all you really do is remind it that it's a monster. And now it was lashing out. The orbital fleets turned inward. Martial law, mass arrests. The streets of every major arc lit up with riots, fire, and gunmetal. Dissenters were shot in broad daylight. Children branded as genetically compromised were disappeared into the research blocks. The purifiers doubled their presence on the surface. Half machine now, half biological weapons. Their faces were the last thing too many innocent people ever saw. And us? The forgotten line? We weren't rebels anymore. We were the last resistance. Every outpost that flew our colors was hunted down. The world that gave birth to us now wanted us erased again. But we were used to that. We regrouped in the bones of old Chicago. What was left of it? The ruins were barely standing, overgrown with vines and tech scrap. But underground, the old tunnel still worked. We had communications. We had a few weapons. And most importantly, we had rage. I sat in a cracked metro car, cleaned my rifle slowly, and stared into the dark. Red was gone. So was Alec. So was Juno. And Nara, she became legend. Her name was being whispered in shattered domes, passed from lips to lips as the symbol of a truth that finally broke through the sterilized lie. But me? I wasn't a symbol. I was still a weapon. And I wasn't done bleeding yet. 2 days after the leak, we got our first off-world message. An alien channel, unknown frequency, pirated through our stolen Union satellite fragments. The voice was filtered, digitized, genderless, but the words were very human. We saw what they tried to erase. We remember your exile. We watched as you turned pain into purpose. We offer alliance. Meet at the edges of the Veil Nebula. One cycle. It wasn't a trap. No one used words like exile unless they meant it. I took the last operational freighter we had, brought only 3 people with me. Mira, a demolitions expert with burns covering half her face. Thatch, an ex-Union pilot who defected after he watched a purifier incinerate a village for sport. And Idris, a quiet hacker who spoke more with his fingers than his mouth. We rode quiet through the stars, cloaked and cold. When we reached the nebula, the ship waiting for us wasn't Union. And it sure as hell wasn't Earth. It was Zarathi. We hadn't seen them since before the exile. Tall, reptilian, ruthless in their own right. They never bowed to the Galactic Union, always called humans chaos born in bone. They were one of the oldest species in the stars, and they hated us. But this one didn't come with weapons. It came with a gift. Inside the docking corridor, they greeted me with their heads bowed low, a gesture we were taught meant respect between equals. The lead Zarathi stepped forward. His voice was low, raspy, the translator implant filtering every syllable through dust and thunder. You destroyed the throne that judged your kind. I nodded. Seraphis. You bled your own false gods and dragged their machine into the dirt. I said nothing. He studied me like a wolf sizing up another predator. You are not like the rest. No, I said. I'm worse. He didn't flinch, just gestured to a holomap that flickered into view behind him. Earth's position blinked at the center, red, pulsing. Around it were fleets, dozens, maybe hundreds. Not Union, not Earth, not human. Others watched too, the Zarathi said. They are coming. Some for blood, some for justice, some for revenge, but none will spare Earth's ruling breed. And the rest of us? I asked. The rest, he said slowly, will have to choose. When I returned to Earth's orbit, the sky was already burning. The first alien strikes hit the far side of the planet. Tactical assaults, not full-scale invasions, precision shots, infrastructure hits, orbital satellites fried, supply chains severed. Earth's AI systems were overloaded, caught between fighting rebels and now fending off a galactic reckoning. Their message to the people? Alien terrorism. But people weren't buying it anymore. Not after the vault footage. Not after Seraphis. Not after the streets filled with screams and fire because of Earth's own soldiers. We had one shot, one final mission, and this time I didn't plan on making it out. The Council was retreating, what was left of them. According to Mira's decrypted data, the Earth High Command had created an off-world fortress near Saturn's rings, Project Nocturne. A command citadel buried inside a hollowed moon, shielded from detection, protected by every last defense Earth had left. That's where they ran. That's where they would rebuild. That's where it had to end. We gathered every last fighter we had, 97 men and women, the last of the forgotten line, the ones too broken to kneel. We didn't ask for volunteers. We just asked, "Are you done running?" No one said no. We struck on the 12th hour of the third eclipse cycle, just before the outer ring's solar flare would disable long-range sensors. Mira rigged fusion warheads to old mining bots. Idris fed synthetic command protocols into their AI, forcing Earth's last remaining orbital defense satellites to recognize us as friendly VIPs. By the time they realized we weren't, it was too late. We dropped into Nocturne's surface like falling knives. 3 teams, 1 goal, kill the Council, end their legacy. Once inside, I saw what they were building. A new AI, bigger than Obsidian. Smarter, stronger, with psychological override capabilities, meant to control populations through suggestion, emotion regulation, and memory manipulation. They called it lucidity. I called it their last gasp. We tore through the halls. Mira blew the control room apart with thermite. Idris severed the AI link. Thatch took a bullet to the throat, but still managed to crash their escape pod by ramming his ship into the dock wall. I found the High Commander in a glass room surrounded by files and blood. He was shaking. His guards were gone. His power drained. "You don't understand," he begged, voice barely audible. "We had to control them. If If we let the galaxy dictate the narrative, humans would be devoured again. Then maybe we deserved it, I said, raising the barrel. You're destroying the future. No, I whispered. I'm correcting it. I pulled the trigger and ended Earth's empire in a splash of red across steel. We barely made it out. Lucidity's core went nuclear. The explosion took out half the moon. Only 5 of us got clear. Earth's systems collapsed days later. The arcs shut down. The sky dimmed. The propaganda faded. And the people? They finally began to remember. Not just the lies, not just the fear, but the truth. That once, long ago, humanity was cast out. Not by aliens, not by war, but by its own corrupted soul. And now, we had a chance to be something else. Or to vanish for good. You'd think after the blood dries and the tyrants fall, peace would follow. It doesn't. Not when peace is a word people forgot how to trust. The Earth Council was dead. Project Lucidity was dust. Nocturne's shattered moon still drifted in pieces, orbiting Saturn like a broken halo. The last fortress of the Empire had been reduced to bone and rubble. For the first time in decades, Earth had no ruler, no AI, no leash around its throat. And still, no peace. Without control, the old divisions came flooding back like a tide. Every fractured group, former Ark citizens, surface survivors, deep bunker clans, rogue tech cults, began clawing at each other for power. They were done kneeling to the Council, sure. But they had no idea how to stand together without someone to hate. And most of them? They still hated us. To them, we were still terrorists, still outlaws, still the faces on the posters marked humanity's mistake. Some of them even wanted the old ways back. I heard whispers of surviving Council loyalists trying to regroup on the Mars colonies. Others believed lucidity should have been completed. Said humanity needed control to survive the galactic backlash that was now heading toward us like a tidal wave of fire. But we weren't focused on their whispers. We were focused on not starving to death. After the fall of the Ark grids, the food distribution networks collapsed. No more synthetic ration deliveries. No more stabilized water filtration. Orbital farms went cold. Surface domes ruptured. And most of the survivors had no idea how to grow a damn thing without an instruction manual and corporate approval. The earth beneath our boots had been stripped, sterilized, poisoned. It wasn't a home, it was a graveyard. And we were trying to plant something in it. We started in Old Andes sector. High altitude, low exposure, not yet claimed by the scavenger tribes. It was quiet. Dead quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own breath echo off mountain stone. We set up greenhouses using salvaged dome tech, used solar fields for power, and pulled clean water from a pre-Union aquifer we'd rediscovered thanks to Idris's scans. There were only 60 of us, leftovers from the Forgotten Line. Worn down, scarred, some missing limbs, others missing more than that. I took a small bunker on the ridge. Not out of pride, just because I couldn't stand to be too close to people anymore. I still saw Red's face when I closed my eyes. Still heard Nara's voice just before she was swallowed by flame. Still smelled the stench of Seraphis in my dreams. You don't get clean after war. You just stop trying to. Mira ran the day-to-day operations, rations, equipment, rotation schedules. She'd grown harder since Nocturne. Less talk, more edge. Her voice had a gravel tone now, like she was always chewing on the ash of her own memories. "You know they're coming, right?" she asked one night while we sat on the bunker roof watching the clouds flicker with artificial light from orbital wrecks, still crashing into the atmosphere. "Who?" "The aliens. The ones who sent that message near the veil." I nodded slowly. "I know. What are you going to do when they land?" I didn't answer right away, just stared at the dark sky. "I don't know." "You trust them?" "No. But you trust Earth even less, she said, and that was the truth of it. The galaxy had watched us burn ourselves alive. Now they were circling, not out of mercy, out of interest. Because humans, for all our sins, had become something rare, a species that survived its own self-erasure and still stood with bloodied hands and burning eyes. We were unpredictable, unruly, but powerful. And everyone wanted to know what we'd become next. The first alien ship arrived 19 days after Nocturne's destruction. It wasn't a fleet, just a single craft, sleek, silent, shaped like a blade of light and shadow. It touched down in the snowfield outside our settlement with no weapons deployed, no signals broadcast. Just silence. I was the one who walked out to meet them. Not because I wanted to, because everyone else was too afraid to. The hatch hissed open. A figure stepped out. Tall, narrow, and shrouded in armor made from some kind of living material. Its face was covered, but its presence carried the weight of ages. Every step it took felt measured, like it had walked through entire empires just to get here. It stopped 6 feet from me. Then it spoke. "We watched your kind fall. We watched you rise again. Now we ask, what are you now?" I stared back. "I don't know. You burned your gods. They deserved it. You silenced your machine prophets. They built cages with code. You destroyed your throne. It wasn't ours to begin with." The figure tilted its head. "Then what do you want, Cray of the Forgotten Line?" And that question hit harder than any bullet I'd taken. Because I didn't know anymore. Revenge was over. The monsters were dead. The fire had burned through everything. And what was left? A ruined planet, scattered people. A scarred old soldier who didn't know how to lead, only how to break. I started, then stopped. The alien waited. I closed my eyes, saw Red's last stand, heard Juno's final breath, felt Nara's last words. I want the next generation to grow up not being us. The figure stood still for a long moment. Then, slowly, it reached into its armor and pulled out a small device, transparent, glowing with shifting blue strands of data. It placed it in the snow between us. "This contains knowledge," it said. "Cleansing tech. Planetary restoration sequences. Old tools your kind forgot while building towers of pride." "Why give it to us?" I asked. "Because we don't want you in space yet," it said. "Not until you remember how to care for the ground." With that, it turned and walked back into its ship. No drama, no negotiations, just that one final sentence. "When Earth heals, then we will speak again." Then it left, vanished into the clouds without sound. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a threat. I felt like a student. We spent the next few weeks unlocking the data. Mira led the science teams. Idris ran the code. And the more we opened, the more we realized what we'd become. We hadn't just been fighting to survive. We'd been fighting to earn the right to rebuild. Not as the Earth we used to be. Not as the monsters who ruled it. But as something new. Something human, in the way we were always meant to be before power twisted us sideways. We began restoring the soil, the air. We repaired weather grids, rebooted the oceans, brought back seeds stored in DNA vaults buried beneath former Union labs. The skies cleared, a little more each week. Children were born without serial numbers. People started smiling without flinching. We weren't saved. But we were starting. And me? I stopped sleeping with a gun under my pillow, for the first time in decades. But not everyone was happy. On the far side of the planet, fragments of the old world still plotted. We intercepted transmissions, encrypted networks calling for a return to control. A rebirth of the Purifier program, cloning projects, new AI designs. They were rebuilding in secret, because evil never dies, It just adapts, and I knew we'd have to fight again. But next time we wouldn't fight alone. The children we raised would stand beside us. And this time, we wouldn't fight to destroy. We'd fight to protect what we built. The air smelled different the day it started. Not smoke, not blood, not ozone from scorched sky shields. It smelled like rain. Real rain. We hadn't felt that in years. Not the synthetic mist sprayed by purification systems or recycled vapor in sealed domes, but true skyfall. Earth breathing again. The soil was soft. Trees we'd thought were extinct bloomed in the valley below Old Andy's sector. Children played without masks. People spoke without whispers. That was the world we were trying to build. That was the world they came to burn. The first attack came from orbit, not with fire, but with code. Someone, or something, hacked into the planetary weather system we'd been restoring. The storm clouds didn't roll back like normal. They multiplied, thickened, became violent. Lightning laced with energy bursts began striking in precision patterns across our outposts. It was tactical, and we knew immediately this wasn't natural. We traced the source. A relay beacon buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, an old Union-era black site. Forgotten, or so we'd thought. Mira, Idris, and I led the strike team. What we found below the waves made my stomach twist. The purifiers were back. Only now. They weren't just soldiers. They were hosts. Hybridized with AI strands, synthetic bone reinforcement, memory implants pulled from dead commanders. They didn't speak. They didn't bleed red. They didn't stop. And they were building something. Project Phoenix. They had learned from Lucidity's failure. This time it wasn't just control through algorithms. It was resurrection, downloading consciousness into cloned bodies, council members, generals, Earth's tyrants, reborn like ghosts in flesh. They were bringing back the old world, not as politicians, but as war machines. "They're trying to reset everything," Mira said, reading the data from a gutted mainframe. "Kill the resistance, reinstall the council, crush the colonies before the aliens step in." "And they'll succeed," Idris added, voice quiet, "unless we cut the head off now." I looked through the thick glass of the undersea chamber, stared at rows of cloned husks in incubation fluid, watched one twitch as synthetic nerves kicked online. Then I saw a face I recognized. High Commander Kezar. I'd killed him myself at Nocturne. And here he was, reawakening, re-smiling, reaching. I didn't hesitate. I smashed the override and dumped the entire chamber into the ocean depths. Watching his unfinished clone sink like a forgotten god into black water felt right. But it wasn't over. This was just the first of several Phoenix sites, each buried, hidden, spread across Earth like a virus waiting to activate. We had to act fast. I called in every contact I had left. Some were barely standing. Others brought new blood, young fighters raised on stories of Seraphis, taught to shoot by old rebels, fed by hands that remembered the cost of peace. The aliens did not intervene. They watched, they judged. Because the deal was always the same. Prove humanity could protect itself from itself, or lose everything. We named our counterstrike Ashfall, because we weren't saving the world. We were burning out the infection. 4 teams, 4 sites, 4 final battles. I took the site in the Siberian wastes, cold, dead land where the ground never thawed and secrets stayed buried for centuries. It was fitting. The Phoenix bunker was built into a mountain, disguised under glaciers. By the time we got there, dozens of the purifier hybrids were already active. The fight was short and vicious. Mira lost an eye. Idris got stabbed through the gut, but kept working the terminal while bleeding out, hand shaking as he triggered the EMP surge. I fought with everything I had left, hands numb, shoulder shattered, knife clenched between broken fingers. And when it was done, I stood in front of the core and placed the charge. 30 seconds. Ticking. Phoenix would die here. With us. But something in me hesitated. Not fear, not regret. Instinct, because I felt it before I saw it. A presence. Familiar? And then... him. A clone, no doubt. But they gave it the original's voice. The same cold eyes, the same poisonous smile. The Earth Council's oldest face. "The war's not over, Cray," he said. "No," I said. "It ends now. You'll destroy your own legacy. You could rule, reshape humanity with clean lines and order." I stared at him. Then I said the last words he'd ever hear. Humanity doesn't need rulers anymore. The explosion swallowed the mountain. I woke up in a med bay 3 days later. They'd pulled me from the rubble. Mira had kept me alive with duct tape, morphine, and sheer fury. Idris didn't make it. His heart stopped before extraction. He died with his fingers still inside the mainframe, finishing the shutdown command. They said his last words were, "Let it end." And it did. One by one, the remaining Phoenix sites collapsed. Some we hit. Some self-terminated when the core AI recognized failure. Earth's skies cleared. The last hybrid purifier was shot outside of Old Boston by a farmer who didn't even know how to hold a rifle properly. But he knew what it meant to stand. And that's what mattered. Weeks passed, then months. We cleared the ruins, replanted crops, rebuilt the cities, not as monuments but as homes. Children were taught history without edits. Names like Juno, Red, Nara, Idris, not just rebels, founders. Statues weren't raised in their honor. Gardens were. Quiet places, places of memory. We sent a signal out to the stars. Not a call for help, not a declaration of war. Just a message. We're not who we were. We remember. We bleed, we rebuild, we welcome peace, but we will never bow again. And this time? The stars answered. One by one. Not with guns, but with respect. The Zarathi sent seeds capable of reversing radiation zones. The Dareth offered alliance agreements, trade, and open science. Even the Union's remnants, what was left of the species who once exiled us, sent apologies. Not as words, but as help. Because the galaxy finally believed what we'd proven. Humanity could learn. Humanity could change. But we'd never forget how it all started. I walk the ridge now every morning. No weapon, just scars. I look down at the valley and see life. Not just survival. Living. Children laughing. Mira teaching them how to grow real food. No AI watching them. No walls around them, just sky. I don't talk much anymore. Don't need to. My war's over. But sometimes, when the wind is just right and the clouds roll heavy across the sky, I remember who we were. And I whisper to the ghosts, we made it. We didn't win peace. We fought it into existence. And now, after all the ash and fire, we guard it with everything we are.